Hello and welcome to Nelly's Nerd Cave with your host, me, Neil. This is my first video and I thought I would take the opportunity to introduce myself to you, the community. So welcome to my Nerd Cave. I say cave, it's really my office. I say office, it's really a room in my house. Okay, it's my bedroom. I've just kind of realised that I'm a middle-aged man talking to you from my bedroom. Weird. Sorry. Anyway, being a bit of a tech nerd, so I'm called, and having what I'm told is an unhealthy relationship with tech, I thought that it was time to share my knowledge. Some might say I'm a little bit late to this, old YouTube malarkey, but I say maybe. But I'm going to have a go anyway. So what gives me the right to pass on my knowledge to the people of the internet when it comes to technology? Well, I've been teaching computing for over 25 years now, and I thought I could share some knowledge with you. I have a passion for tech that started when I was a very young child, and I'm not going to tell you my real age because that's really for the special people to know. A lot of my students think I've been around since the day of the dinosaur, and in computer terms that's not really far from the truth. Starting my life with a BBC Micro, then Commodore 64, just to name a few, I started a very, very large interest in how they work and what they can do for me, and then an unending passion was then born. I want to be one of the people that you can go to who can give you unbiased advice about computing, laptops, hardware, what makes them run, from gaming to productivity. With cost always being a factor, I want to explore some of the budget-saving upgrades you can do to allow you to get the longest life out of your computer without breaking the bank, as well as benchmarking these upgrades and passing on tips and tricks I have learned over the many years of fixing computers and teaching about them to students. So with that, I want to start with a once-a-week video of the types of hardware and general consumer users, and looking at the ways that you can improve performance in small, affordable steps. I can still hear you all shouting at your screens, saying, why should we just trust you? Good question. Well, I believe that the more information you gather, the better prepared you are when it comes to parting with your hard-earned cash. And I'm just one of the people who's going to be that big cog in the wheel. I'm also going to be covering unboxings of relative technologies, as well as looking at the types of technology I use while I'm teaching in my classrooms virtually. So with the introductions out of the way, let's get started. Today I'm going to talk about some of the equipment I use to teach. Since COVID threw us all for a loop, many working environments changed to online and work from home, and I was no different. At the beginning of the UK lockdown, I was to start teaching from home, something I had never done before, as I was always in a classroom. All I had was a cheap and cheerful webcam that was nowhere near 720p, and on the best days, nowhere, not even 1p. The audio was by far the worst I've ever heard, but I had a job to do. Many classes later, and it was very apparent I was not engaging the students. So I decided to do some research and came up with this particular camera, this one. Really, really cool. This is a Mermaid 8 megapixel webcam. It comes with a 50 to 50mm focal length and is quite good. It has an 8 megapixel Sony IMX178 sensor in there. It's pretty good, but to be honest, it was a little bit of a waste of money. As a webcam I actually had in comparison, as far as the image quality is concerned. You'll see that soon when I do the comparisons. However, there seemed to be a better version, so I purchased this one, which looks very similar, but this is the ELP 4K. This has a Sony IMX317 sensor with a max resolution of 4K, and it was so good that I bought another two, and you can see the results here. So I'm recording on it right now, this camera just here. See, it's really cool. This came with the same lens, other than a little vignetting, a complicated word that basically means dark corners in your pictures. It's really good. It does unscrew, does this particular lens, and you can unscrew this one very, very easily. However, I found that if you want the 2.8 to 12mm, you have to buy the separate camera that comes with the 2.8 to 12mm. Really good for wider shots. The longer 5 to 50mm one, which is on this camera, is really good for far away. Here you'll see that on this particular one there are 3 rings, so you've got these 3 rings. The first ring is all about your focus, the second ring is all about your aperture, and again this is manual, but once dialed in it's great, plus you can change all that using the software a little later within your post. The third and final ring at the end is the telephoto and wide, and I'm going to show you this in more detail when I start to take the cameras apart. The only problem with these is that there is no microphone, but that's for another video where I talk about the microphones that I went through. The case on each of these is aluminium, or for my American friends, aluminum. I have found this helps with the heat dissipation of the sensor, allowing the camera to perform very well compared to some other webcams, the first one that I had, that after 7 hours of classes struggled to keep up because the sensor would heat up and it was a plastic shell. The USB is a little bit strange. It's just basically a very simple cable like this, and it actually has 5 pins. It's really good for routing the cable, plugging in one side of the USB into your computer, running it where you need it, and then plugging in the camera a little bit later on. Okay, so now a closer look at the cameras. So this one here at the top is the 4K. It has the smaller lens, the 2.8 to 12, and as you can see this unscrews really easily, and relatively straightforward to use. Again, with this one you actually have the focus here on the front, whereas with the other lens the focus is at the back. You have your wide and telephoto movements there, and then you also have your aperture. With the longer lens, the 5 to 50mm lens, again and unscrews exactly the same, and you can see here that we have both lenses together. You can see that they're definitely much shorter, and you'll also see that you have your focal, then you have your aperture here, and you have your telephoto and wide angle zoom function within it. Really nice, really clear lenses, work very well, fit for purpose for what they do. I haven't had any issues with any of these at the moment. They are manual lenses. A lot of cameras nowadays are autofocus. I've found that for what I do, there's no need for autofocus within my teaching. So what I tend to do is I tend to use these little pins here to lock off the lens once it's focused and once it's zoomed into the correct places, and that's that. It's done. Don't need to fiddle with it any longer. Don't need to play about with it any longer. It's absolutely fine. It's complete. Moving on to the cameras, very simple camera base. You can see that you have the sensor just in the middle, and what we have is we have the cable, and this is the very strange 5-pin cable that we have for this. This then plugs into this socket here. Again, has the 5 pins in, and then into the USB. Like I said earlier, this really helps with you being able to move this cable into funny little places that's going to be hard to reach, like down the back of your desk and things like that. So it's really good to have this so that it separates out from the rest of the actual camera, so that you can really focus and get what you need from that. The camera itself is, as it says, it's a 4K camera. Is this one? This one is 5 volts, and it does have a Sony sensor in it. So we'll just take this apart just so that you can have a look. Really simple with 2 screws at the back. And when we look at this, again, the camera actually has extra adjustments within it. Well, not adjustments, I mean extra sections where it gets held on. So you can see there that you've got the circuit board in the back that's held for the USB cable, and in the bottom you will actually find that this is where you've got your 1/4-20 mount, and this can be moved from either the bottom or to the top depending on which way you want to mount it. Now this sensor is quite difficult to get out, so we'll move on and have a look at the other one and see how difficult that one is. This one, again, this one has 4 screws, even though it's a slightly smaller body. But this is the 8 megapixel one, and the 8 megapixel one, it's okay. You're going to see when I bring up a comparison shortly the difference in image quality, and when I say that even though it's an 8 megapixel camera, the image quality is not good, you'll realise that it's not really a great camera even though it's 8 megapixels. It's just, more often than not, it's just choice. So this one obviously has screws down the side as well. The screws down the side allow you to take off this back plate as well, so that then you can get further into the device and you're able to see that. So if you just bear with me, I will unscrew this and we will be able to get in and have a look. And this one has ⅛ mount on the top and bottom built into the actual aluminium itself, so that you can screw a mount in either top or bottom for this particular device itself very easily. And we should be able to remove that. Fantastic. And then we should be able to, moving these screws out of the way, should be able to see the circuit board, and in there we will have 4 screws again. We can have 4 screws, and each camera is built exactly the same way. They have the sensor, they have the relevant circuitry in there, and then a plug for USB. This then allows the entire device to be very, very simple to use, very, very easy to keep clean and maintain. But not just that, you shouldn't need to maintain or clean it because it's all self-contained. And as we can see on this side, we have the sensor, and the sensor is then screwed in with another 2 screws on the back, and the sensor is just there. On the 4K one, it is slightly bigger and a lot chunkier, and again we will see shortly what the image quality is like. So now you've seen the insides, setup is really simple. You plug it into a USB port, there are no drivers to install, and off you go. Here we can see the difference between the cameras. This first one here is the 4K camera. It's really easy and really intuitive to use. This is just the standard setup. I have played a little bit with the brightness and contrast, but that's about it more than anything. This one here is the 8 megapixel. You can see it's not very detailed, there's no real colour, it looks very blue. Even in post-production it makes no difference, it looks terrible. So I really need to be able to give my students quality. So here we can see a side-by-side comparison of the two, so you can really see that the 4K one, the image pops, it's got bright colours. Both of these actually have the same settings and they're both set up identically. And why do I use these for teaching them? So when I'm using them for teaching, why should I not use something like Logitech? I'm sure some of you are already saying that. Well, this camera gives me the opportunity to use an external sound capture, therefore using better quality microphones, and this was a whole process that I went through just picking microphones. What I wanted was clear images that I could use through OBS Studio, and this worked well for me, and the engagement of my learners increased. Why did I not send the other camera back? The poor 8 megapixel one, I hear you cry. Well, I'm an idiot. And it went past the minimum time to send it back. Again, I'm an idiot. And you'll find this out as the videos progress. So, if you're a teacher who works from home and you want to be able to have a better picture quality while doing what you love, this is one option. Remember, it has no microphone, but once you've got that, your students will appreciate the level of quality you add to your sessions. And being a teacher, I'm used to comments and feedback. I need to learn how to use this platform and how to improve. So as far as I'm concerned, all feedback is good feedback. I hope you enjoyed my little insight to my first part of my teaching setup and one of my first videos, and it would be great if you could like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all next time.